Okay. Good morning, students. Let me start the new chapter, that is reproduction units. Next chapter, sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Okay, let us discuss about this chapter. What are the things we are going to study in this chapter? Let me explain you. Let me tell you in the synopsis. Then we will be continuing the chapter. Okay, so sexual reproduction in flowering plants. That is nothing but angiosperms. Sexual reproduction in the flowering plants. Flowering plants are nothing but angiosperms. Okay, so the flowering plants are kept under the angiosperms. How the sexual reproduction is taking place in the angiosperms or flowering plant, we are going to study detail in this chapter. That is one by one. This is a synopsis what I have written on the board. So first, my dear students, flower. We are going to study about the flower. Flower is a fascinating organ of angiosperms, isn't it? As I said you just now, what do you mean by angiosperms? My dear students, the flower-bearing plants are said to be angiosperms. We are going to study first detail about the flower. Then, as you know that in the first chapter I have explained you people, in the sexually reproducing organisms, compulsorily either the plants or the animals, they have to show the three important events, that is pre-fertilization event, fertilization event and post-fertilization event. I have explained in my last class videos, that is reproduction in organisms. You can also recheck. Once again you can go through that. And here the same thing as it is also undergoing in sexual reproduction. My dear students, here also you can see they are showing pre-fertilization, fertilization, post-fertilization event. But things will be varying here. In the pre-fertilization events, we are going to study the structures of the male and female reproductive system as simultaneously the events coming under that one. Then about the fertilization. After pre-fertilization, that is the event of the which is very important is the fertilization. So in the angiosperm, the fertilization is a specific type we call it as double fertilization. I'll explain to you one by one. This is just a synopsis I have kept in front of you people. So next event after fertilization will be the post-fertilization event. That is immediately after the fertilization. So there also you can see what are the structures involved in that and simultaneously followed with the events. Then lastly we are going to study the apomixis and polyandry. Okay, my dear students. So now let us begin one by one. First, let me explain you about a flower. What is a flower? If you ask a person, a gentleman or a layman, so what does it say? It is a very beautiful structure created by the God, isn't it? It is a fascinating organ of an angiosperm, and I have written here. If you ask her what exactly a flower to that is a science student or the person who is belonging to the science branch, what they will say. So they will say that a flower is a reproductive part of the angiosperm. A reproductive part of the angiosperm. Okay, so do you know that among the algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, none of them possesses the flower. Only angiosperm produces the flower. What is the thing which is differentiating that it is a flower? What is the necessity of bearing the flower? As The other thing, they are not producing the flower, they are not showing sexual reproduction actually. In the angiosperm, the flowers are there, they are producing the flowers because they are undergoing the process of sexual reproduction. As you people are familiar with my students, that in the reproduction, there are two types, asexual and sexual. So whenever the sexual reproduction comes, it is biparental. Biparental. What do you mean by biparental, my dear students? Biparental means both male and female parents are involved. So why do we need the biparental? Because we need both male and female gametes. Isn't it? Sexual reproduction means both sperm and ovum should fuse to form a zygote. I can call it as sexual reproduction. Isn't it? So this sexual reproduction is possible only in plants when there is a both male and female reproductive parts are there. So these reproductive parts are present only among the angiosperm. Why? Because male and female reproductive part bearing structure, that is a flower, is present only in the angiosperms. Right? Getting it? So now let us see what exactly. Apart from this, if you ask a science related branch, if you ask what is a flower, let us say it is a vegetative part which is involved in reproduction. Or else, simple, I can say in one line, a reproductive part of angiosperm. Why I am mentioning a reproductive part, you will come to know when I show you the parts of the flower. Okay, clear? So apart from that, as you people are familiar with, my dear students, that it is a fascinating organ. It is a fascinating organ. You can see here flowers in the angiosperms representing the sexual part of the male and female. That is representing the male and female reproductive part of the flower. Isn't it? So, when apart from that, it is also used as an other part of our life. Isn't it? As an ornament we are using. Okay, as an ornament we are using. Then we are using for showing our affections. Isn't it? And also we are using as a, what we call it as a, at the time of birth also we are representing. We are welcoming the young one with the flower. At the time of the phenomenon also we are using. It is a fascinating organ. We are using the flowers to show our emotions, feelings, isn't it? But it is according to gender, isn't it? If it asks to a science student, it is a reproductive part of the flowers, isn't it? It is showing different varieties. That is what we call it as ornamental, aesthetic values, affections, emotions, everything we can show towards along with the representing the flowers, isn't it? So if you talk further about the flower, it is morphological and embryological structure which is representing the sexual parts of the male and female in the angiosperms, isn't it? So let me show you people what are the different structures present in the flower. Okay, this will come for the 5-mark question in the few board exam. 5-mark question is compulsorily. There are some sexual reproduction in flowering plant. This chapter is one of the weightage content. And one 5-mark question is compulsory list. And that the 5 marks question from this chapter is usually 90% a diagrammatic. So this is also one among them. Okay, I hope you people are understanding. So if you see, they will ask LS of a typical flower. What will be the question asked by the view board, my dear students? They will ask draw a unique labeled diagram of as lateral section of the flower. Okay, so at that time what you are going to draw is a typical flower, hibiscus flower. What I am going to draw a rough diagram over here. That is a bisexual flower. In my last classes, previous classes video, I have clearly explained about unisexual, dioecious, bisexual, monoecious flowers. Okay, if you still have confusion, you can see that. So here it is a female reproductive part, my dear students, which is having what is the female reproductive part is said to be? It is a stigma, and this is a long cylindrical plant-like structure is called as style. Then at the basal bulging structure it is called as ovary. Okay, my students. So now I am seeing the structure of flower. If you directly see, you cannot see the correct all the structures present in the flower. So what we are going to do is we are taking a lateral section of that. So we are going to see all the reproductive part of the flower. So this is the stigma, which is a tip. I will explain in detail. Just I am showing the structure of the flower. Then in the structure and event of the pre-fertilization. Once again I will explain you what are the things in detail. So this is a stigma, style, this is plant-like structure, ovary. And these three things forming the male reproductive part of the flower. Male reproductive part of the flower. What exactly the male reproductive part is? It is called as stamen. What it is called as, my dear students? It is a stamen. Then, apart from this, what are the other things you find here? That is, the other thing you can find here, that is this structure. Have you seen this type of structure in the flowers? Have you observed it anytime? So, I will write here, this is called as anther. What it is called as anther. Anther is usually bilobe. It may be unilobe also, and it is bilobe here. It is connected. The two lobes are connected with a tissue called connective. Okay, this is called as filament. Okay, I hope you will understanding. Very simply I am telling you people. This is my dear student. It is a tip. We are able to see the anther, where exactly the pollen grains are produced. Then the two anther lobes are joined together with the special tissue connective. A star-like structure, that is a filament. What these three is forming? These three are forming the, what we call it as, this is forming a female part of the this thing, and that is a pistil or carpel. Okay, pistil or carpel, and this is the male reproductive part of the flower. That is, we call it as pistil or carpel. What it is called as pistil or carpel. This is a male reproductive part. I can say that is a stamen. Stamens. Okay. So, if you see here, I can say it is a bisexual flower because it is consisting of both male reproductive part as well as the female reproductive part. Okay. What are the male reproductive part? You should remember in your brain every time the female and male reproductive structure. The female structure, that is the female reproductive unit, is called as pistil or carpel, which consisting of stigma, style, and ovary. Right? The male reproductive unit is stamen. Stamen consisting of anther, connective, filament. This much if you are writing, we are going to get that need you have to draw it. And what about these structures now? These structures, these are nothing but petals. Petals or corolla. Petals or corolla. And if you see here, this is called as sepals. Sepals or calyx. Okay, sepals or calyx. Now, I hope you people are understanding. Once again, just I'll tell you one more time. You can see here, this is a lateral section of a typical flower. Drawing in the label diagram of LS of a typical flower for 5 minutes. At that time, you have to represent all the male reproductive unit and female reproductive unit. That is stigma style ovary is a female reproductive part. The unit is said to be pistil or carpel. Then anther connective filament, which is the female reproductive part, male reproductive part, the unit is said to be stamen. Okay, and these two male and female reproductive parts, do you know? I said you at the beginning of this chapter, just now in the introduction, what is a flower means? It is a vegetative part, morphologically and biologically meant for sexual reproduction. Did you remember? So, what are the parts among this flower is involved in the reproduction? Male reproductive structure, female reproductive structures. So, the male reproductive structure, androecium. Okay, androecium is a male reproductive part of the flower. Then gynoecium is a female reproductive part of the flower. Okay, the unit of the gynoecium is a pistil or carpel. What it is, beta? Pistil or carpel, isn't it? Then what about the female unit is? Unit of the female androecium is a male reproductive unit. Male reproductive part of the flower. What is a unit? Stamen. Very good. It is called as stamen. So, if you talk about the stamen, you can easily, if you remember these things, there will be no confusion till the end of the chapter. Understood very clearly? Very clearly, my dear students. If you see here, androecium, gynoecium, androecium is a male reproductive part. The unit of the androecium is stamen. If I call stamen also, it is a male reproductive part. If I call androecium also, it is same. Similarly, vice versa. Okay. So, what does stamen consisting of? Stamen consisting of anther, connective filament. Okay, anther, connective filament. Was the pistil or carpel consisting of stigma, style, ovary? Right? I hope you people are very clear with this. So, shall I call this two as an essential part of the flower? Important part of the flower? Why? Because flower is meant for reproduction. So, male and female reproductive parts are making part of the reproduction. Is it a petal, that is corolla, sepal, that is calyx, are taking part in the reproduction? No. So, I can call this as essential walls of the flower. Okay, walls means it is a floral parts, we are calling it as walls. People have studied in the first years, right? Then what about the that is petals, other parts that leaving this androecium and gynoecium is what become petals and sepals. Petal is nothing but the colored, the attractive part of the flower, that is corolla. Okay, we also call it as corolla. Okay, then the one more is sepals. Sepals is nothing but that is calyx. Okay, so these two are not taking part in reproduction, even though they are the part of the flower. Without that, are you able to tell it is a flower? No. It is a part of the flower, but it is not taking part in the reproduction. So the flower is meant for only reproduction. Shall I call it as mention. You have to mention sometimes in 5-mark question. Just you have to, whatever I have written, that much is enough. Okay, related question will be asked from the learning. See it. Okay, so why I am telling non-essential means it is not needed. Then why that person? They have some different role. They have some different role. What role, what advantage, what function they are having? You know, pollination. Pollination means what we call it as pollen grains compulsorily should fall on the stigma. Then only fertilization is taking place. I'll tell you. Okay, so at that time to attract the insects, pollination के लिए, cross pollination के लिए some agents are required. Insects like bees, butterflies, isn't it? They are visiting to the flowers, right? So to attract them, the different types of petals are produced by different plants. Understood? And apart from that, it is giving protection in the bud condition period leaves. Understood? Okay, I hope you people are understanding. Shall I repeat? Okay. So now I will be explaining you that is a pre-fertilization event. The pre-fertilization event I am going to explain. Okay, I hope you people are very easily understanding. Now, pre-fertilization events, all the living organisms which are undergoing sexual reproduction, compulsorily they should show pre-fertilization event, fertilization event and post-fertilization event. In my last videos, that is the last class of the reproduction in organisms, I have explained very detailedly about that. You can also see if you have confusion over here. Okay. So now let us talk about pre-fertilization. Pre-fertilization events. In that, what is there, my students? In that, we are going to study the structures and events. Structures and events. Okay. So, what are the structures involved in this? According to that, do you know that in the first chapter, that is in my last classes, I have explained you pre-fertilization in that commonly either the plant or animal. Two things are very common in the pre-fertilization event, that is gametogenesis and gamete transfer. Gamete fuse होना है, in the sense gametes produce होंगे तभी तो fuse होंगे. That is in gametogenesis. Gamete produce होने के बाद भी अगर they are not coming in contact with each other, isn't fusion is possible? No. So gamete transfer they are doing. Okay. So in this particularly in the reproduction in organism, generally we will study about the plants and animals. Here in the sexual reproduction in flowering plant, exactly how in angiosperm the pre-fertilization events are there. That is, what are the structures of in the males and in the female reproductive parts, and the events we are going to study later. Okay. So we'll proceed here. So in the pre-fertilization event, if you talk about, so flower, as we know that flower is a modified shoot which is meant for the reproduction. Some hormones like auxins, gibberellins, okay, gibberellins. Then other things which will be acting on the vegetative buds. Okay, the buds which are produced before the flower is produced. So on that bud, because of the hormones like auxins and gibberellins, they will differentiate into different walls of the flower. There are 4 walls. 2 essential walls made. Then non-essential walls are the petals and the sepals. So developing in the plant. So what happens? They differentiate into so-called these four roles because of the auxins and gibberellins, that is the hormones. Okay, helps to differentiate into so-called flower. Getting my dear students? Understanding? So now, how the flower is going to be produced? Flower is nothing but it is a morphologically modified shoot meant for reproduction, right? So now let us see what are the different things happening here. So that is development. Inflorescence. Did you know that inflorescence, which bear floral buds, opening of the flower, these all things you will be seeing. A typical flower, always, just already I have explained to people, a typical flower which will be having four holes, isn't it? Two essential holes, endoecium and gynoecium, two non-essential holes, that is what we call it as petals and sepals. Now let us talk about stamen, microsporangium and pollen grain. Stamen, microsporangium, pollen grain. What is stamen? Microsporangium and pollen grain. Pollen grain. Okay, so now when we see here, these are the structures which are present. This is the main structures present. What we call it as we are going to present in the flower. We are going to study how they are producing the male gamete. That will be the event, structures and events, right? So now let us see what I have written here is a stamen, microsporangium and pollen grains. So there should not be any confusion because again when I write pistil, microsporangium and embryo cell. So that is the female reproductive part. This is the male reproductive part. That's what I have cleared here very detailedly. Okay, there should not be any confusion at all, isn't it? So stamen. So let us talk about the stamen, how exactly the stamen is. So if you talk about the stamen, this is nothing but male reproductive part of the flower. Okay, usually you can see the structures in the flower. Okay, so this is the stamen you are able to see. In the next class, I'll show you hibiscus flower. With that, different parts I will be showing you. Okay, I hope it is available here, so I can't get it now. If I get it, I'll show you. So this is become bilobed anther. Stamen is the biggest part of the flower. So in the stamen, what are the parts are present? This is the anther. This is the anther. And this is a specialized tissue which is joining the two lobed anther together. And this is a stalk-like structure which I can say it is a filament. So all together is forming the stamen. Usually the anther may be bilobed or unilobed. What we call it as I have drawn here is a bilobed anther. Here is one lobe, here is another lobe. Most of the angiosperms, they are showing two-lobed anther. Most of the angiosperms, we can find two-lobed anther. Isn't it? Each stamen that is differentiated into a tip anther, cylindrical stalk-like structure that is a filament. Then connected the two lobes together, that is with the connective, a specialized tissue, that is connective. Each lobe contains two longitudinal running sacs. Okay, two longitudinal running sacs or chambers called pollen sacs. In some cases, there are only two pollen sacs instead of four. So, where if you see this anther, first I'll clear you one thing. Some of them they will be showing kidney-shaped anthers also, like this. In single lobe. This is your able to show the single lobe. Here it is bilobe. It is what type of anther it is? Bilobe anther. Two lobes are there. How it is? Urinary. Single lobe. Single lobe anther. Some of the class you can observe like this also anther, like this also. But most of the angiosperms are showing bilobe. So usually we will draw the bilobe anther. So at the tip structure, the anther if we talk about, it is a fertile part of the stamen. Fertile part of the stamen, why we are calling it as? Because pollen grains are produced inside that. If you cut this anther, if you take a section, how you are going to see, I will show you here. Okay, this is a bilobe like this. If you cut it, you are going to see like this. Isn't it? Each anther lobe is having, you can see like this. If I do a cutter, to see the internal structure, there are chambers. Each lobe has two chambers. If you see each lobe, you are able to see two chambers. So this is one lobe, this is another lobe. So that is, it will be having two chambers, and these chambers are said to be what? These chambers are called as pollen sacs. What they are called as pollen sacs. And what is the function of the pollen sac? In the pollen sac, the pollen grains are developed or produced. Getting? Understanding? No confusion, I think. Okay, my dear students? But in some of the anthers, instead of two in each lobe, only one pollen sac is also present. But in Malvaceae, not all, in Malvaceae family will be there now. In that, instead of two pollen sacs in the each anther lobe, only one pollen sac in the one anther lobe in the family Malvaceae. So if you buy your anther, how many will be there? Each having two, that is four. Understood better? So you can see here, if you see the structure, that is in some cases there are only two pollen sacs instead of four. That is in the Malvaceae. Each pollen sac consisting of numerous of pollen grains. I have said you, in the pollen sacs, number of pollen grains are produced. What are the pollen grains? These are the pollen grains are produced. Pollen grains, which are also said to be microspores. There will be always confusion about macrosporangium, microsporangium. Microspores, megaspores. There will be always confusion. You should be very clear about that. Here, stamen means microspores, pollen grains. Pollen grains हम क्या होते हैं? Microspores. Microspores किससे produce होते हैं? Microsporangium से produce होते हैं. Microsporangium is nothing but male reproductive. Female reproductive part, crystal or carpel, megasporangium. Mega, okay. And then produces which type of spore? Megaspore. Clear? Okay. I'll tell you in that part also. Let me clear here. So numerous. If you know that this is an anther, that is a tip of the stamen. Tip of the stamen consisting of anther, which is a fertile part of the stamen. These anther has chambers. Each lobe has two anther, pollen sacs, and each pollen sac produces numerous microspores or pollen grains. Clear? So here now let us talk about the structure of microsporangium. This structure we are going to study. If we cut this anther, the structure what I am going to show is nothing but microsporangium. That structure is very important for your pure theory need CT. A 5 mark, one more question, 99% is possible. Explain the microsporangium with neat labeled diagram. Okay, and whatever the diagram explanation will be there, among that explanation, the CT and questions will be asked. Okay? Shall I have this? Before I explain the microsporangium, let me tell you what are the connective and filament for more time. Okay, my dear students, if you see here, I said you two lobes are present. So these two lobes are joined to a specialized tissue that is called as connective. And there is a star-like structure which is joining the anther, the floral bud or part that is known as filament. And these are not taking part in the fertility. Only anther is responsible for that. And when the anther matures, after maturation the pollen grains are produced. Pollen grains full development होने के बाद ही so यहाँ पे क्या होता है diascens होके pollen grains will release. Okay, if you see the hibiscus flower, you can see a powdery yellow color. Not only hibiscus, some of the flowers in that anther, if it is matured, the pollen grains will be released. That is, we will be studying one by one. You can see yellow color substances. If I get the flower, I'll show you the different parts by showing the flower. Okay, shall I repeat? So now I will explain you. This is a statement I have explained you. Now let me explain you microsporangium. Okay, microsporangium. If we draw the structure, microsporangium, it is most of the angiosperm, the microsporangium, that is pollen sac. Microsporangium is nothing but pollen sac, which is located, where it is located, ma'am? It is located inside the anther. I have just shown you people. It is located inside the anther lobes, and here the sporogenous, elongated sporogenous will be there, and pollen grains or microspores are going to develop. Each anther has 2 microsporangia. Okay, such as anther with 2 microsporangium is ditychus, and usually there will be one. I will show you a drawing, show you people the diagram of the very important will come for compulsory 5-mark question will be appearing. And one, rarely 1 mark question, there is the most chances of appearing 5-mark question from this diagram. This is a end anther, or it is also said to be microsporangium. What is the possibility of question on this? 5-mark question, how they will ask and how you should write. First I will tell you how they will ask and how you should write after explanation. Explain PS of young anther. Especially they will mention young anther. Why? Because after maturation, it will diascens, releasing the pollen grains, isn't it? These are what we call it as you are able to see the anther. We have connected. We have taken a section of the anther, that is transfer section. Anther को लेके हम transfer section ले रहे हैं. Transfer section or young anther, which before the formation of the pollen grains. Pollen grains mature होने के बाद वो पूरा diascens होकर release होता है. It is shown in your NCERT also. That is rupturing. ये सभी क्या होता है? जैसे rupture हो गया, release हो जाते हैं. So that is the reason we have said that it is a young. So you can see very easy in the structures found here. A rough diagram I am drawing here of phase of any anther made up of different cell layers, right? This is one more layer. Okay. Okay, there are so many cells inside: epidermis, endothelium, then vascular supply, that is a connective. So many columnar cells in there. They are all cells together. Okay. You can see the structure: epidermis. Okay, this is endothelium. Epidermis, that is the outermost layer, then is the endothelium, then you are able to see the middle layers, and then tapetum, then internal layers. These are the internal layers, you can see those are the middle layers, isn't it? Okay. Middle layers, and this is the tapetum. Important, इसके ऊपर बहुत पूछा है क्वेश्चन, what is tapetum, medial push है, it is a nourishing, specialized nourishing tissue. Okay, and this is a connective. Also say it is a for vascular supply. Okay. Yeah. So now you can see here that is pollen mother cells are present inside the. Here you can say these are pollen mother cells. In short, we call it as PMC, or pollen grains are also called as microspore mother cells. Microspores, so we can also call it as microspore mother cells. But usually we say pollen mother cells. Mother cells means from that pollen grains are produced. Okay, this is a proper diagram of ES of any anther, which is very important. Okay, if you see this, I said you people just now, it is in the most of the angiosperm, the pollen sacs or microsporangium. What you are able to see is four elongated spore, this structure it will be. If you see the structure in mature anther, the microsporangium will be resulting in the dehiscence. It will be removing the pollen grain. So it is a young condition. So each lobe of the anther has how many pollen sacs? Pollen sacs are nothing but microsporangium. pollen grains produce होगी और कोई pollen sac को हम क्या बोल रहे हैं microsporangia. So each pollen sacs, there are two pollen sacs in each lobe. So each anther, bilobe anther is having four pollen sacs, that is microsporangia. Each lobe anther has two microsporangia. Such anther with two microsporangia is called as diathecus. What it is called as diathecus because each is having diathecus. ये सभी related से आपको पूछता है नीट और सीटी में what is diathecus, monothecus. Okay, if it is having only one we can call it as monothecus. I said na, in most of the anther lobe two sacs are present. Very rarely only one is present. If it is two is present, diathecus. If it is one is present, monothecus. Okay, in transfer section of a typical young anther, it is somewhat circular in shape. We cannot say exactly, somewhat circular in shape. Okay, it is surrounded by four walls. Outer layer is called as epidermis. Inner to that is an endothelium. Next to that is the middle layer. Next to that is a epidermis. Because inside that are the mother cells. So basically, if you see a TS of an anther, it is a transfer section of a young anther or microsporangium. You find it is somewhat circular in shape, made up of four layers of walls. Outermost layer epidermis, next is endothelium, next are the middle layers, 2 to 3 layers in epidermis. Epidermis single layer, endothelium single layer, middle layers more than 2 or 3 layers. Okay, then tapetum. So now in this explanation you have to draw all the labelings in the 5 marks and each layer how they are, where it is located and what is the function of the layer. That is essential to get all 5 marks, and that related only the CET questions will be appearing. Okay, so the cells of the endothelium, you know the 4 layers are there, isn't it? The cells of endothelium are radially elongated. Radially elongated are there. What? The second layer is the endothelium. So this radially elongated with the fibrous thickening. There is a fibrous thickening is present in the cells, isn't it? And then tapetum. What about the epidermis single layer, which is meant for protection? The next endothelium, radially elongated, made up of fibrous thickening. Fibers are produced, and because of that, they become thicker. Okay. Then next to that is the middle layers, made up of more than 2 layers. Then you are able to see the tapetum is the innermost layer around the pollen mother cells. If you talk about the pollen mother cells, isn't it? Which is the innermost layer of tapetum, then middle layer, then endothelium, then epidermis. If you go from the external to interior, epidermis, endothelium, middle layers, right? So you can see here the pollen grains in the most layer is the tapetum. It nourishes the developing pollen grains, isn't it? So due to the presence of the more than one nucleus, isn't it? So there is a specialized thing, what we call it as, it is helping nourishing the pollen mother cells. Pollen grains will develop over there. Anything which is developing will require the food, isn't it? Anything which is developing compulsorily they require the food. So the food is present in the reserve form in this layer, that is the tapetum, which is having more than one nuclei. So it is providing nourishment to the developing. Got my point, students? Okay, understood? So here, this is about that